So Lynne, you've been president of the society for 3 years. Yes, you've been president of the society for 3 years. We're very grateful for what we've done. Of course, you're not the only person who's coming to the end of their term, as it were. But seeing as I think it's appropriate now for us all to thank Lynne for all the work that she's done as president. It's been a time of great change to society, and she's led us through that very capably and very energetically. So thank you very much, Lynne.
Well, thank you for that. It has been a bit of a struggle, and I'm delighted that we are actually back to having meetings. And so many people have said to me today, how nice to see you. So yes, as you might suspect, I'm not going to talk about me at all, but I am going to thank everybody who's come and whatever part you've played. And I gather that in the Oscars now, you're not supposed to witter on and put all the names up on the charts and things so you can scroll through them and read them. So, and as you already know, we're only really talking about one person today. There are a lot of people retiring from various posts, and I hope that some of you will step forward to help fill those. But we're just going to have a little wander through Jim's time with the BSBI. And Jim, you told me I hadn't got to go on for a long time, and I hadn't got to say certain things. So here we are. Some of the things you may or may not know about Jim. I know most of these things, but I suspect you will all have encountered Jim in different aspects of his life. So he graduated in electrical engineering. Well, I mean, you know, what's that? How does that lead him into botany? Well, I don't really know. And then he worked for the BBC, and he ran up and down, you know, telegraph poles and connecting things and making sure that we were networking. So perhaps that is leading us on to what he now does so well. And then he retrained. He decided to go to the Scottish Agricultural College in Ayr. And I think it was probably at that time he came into the botanical radar. And then he worked for MTS at Ben Lawes for a while. And he came into S&H in the Argyll and Stirling area, where I definitely met him, as I was operational manager then. And Jim was doing site condition monitoring. And he loved being out in the field rather than sitting at the desk working, but wouldn't we all, I suspect. So then he became the Scottish officer, and we've had him for 18 years, and he's now ended up as a sort of senior country officer, and his enthusiasm and his knowledge and his expertise that he's gained over those 18 years have really put him in good stead. So he did nip off to Tristan da Cunha for a year's sabbatical, and you'll have to ask Jim about that. Jim has mixed feelings about that, and so I'm not going to go into it. He's got a website though. Well, what has Jim done for us in that time? I think he's integrated himself into the botanical community, and he's also integrated the botanical community itself by doing that. The fact that we've got people from many different societies and aspects here today is proof of that. He's developed the Scottish officer role because we didn't have one before. And we now can't see what we will do without one. And other countries are saying, why haven't we got a Welsh officer? We're not managing without a Welsh officer. No, we've only got an Irish officer part-time. And we now, England have suddenly woken up. Why shouldn't we have an officer in England? Which, good news is, we get one. He's led many, many field trips. And I'm sure he's enjoyed doing those. And also educational days. And I think this is also one of Jim's traits that we've seen develop over that time. And the fact that we're now getting a lot of younger people involved, but it doesn't matter what your age is, you can learn about plants. Some of my friends have said today, I don't really know much about plants. You've got to start sometime. I'm starting to learn fungi now. I get a bit bored in the winter. There's not many nice flowering plants, although there may be more with climate change. So I'm getting down and looking at fungi. So I think Jim's encouragement and enthusiasm comes through when he's talking to all of us, but also younger people and people who don't know one plant from another. And that's a special characteristic. And he's involved many more people. He's roping people in, and I suspect he might continue to do that, even though he's not Scottish officer. He's helped us with MapMate. Well, some of us struggle with these technological challenges, but Jim seems to have risen to it all. To young people, they deal with it with ease, whereas I'm sorry, people like me are not very good at these things, so we need a helping hand. And the fact that, you know, a lot of Scottish recorders are better at entering their data than in the rest of Britain, I think is due to Jim and these workshops and the care and the hand-holding stages he took us through. He's participating in many events, including organising the Scottish Botanical Conference, which we see today. And as I said, he's encouraged many younger members. And we've got a really young one over there. And very nice to see. And very well behaved, I have to say. It's not over yet, it's over. But most of all, I think, you know, the last one is not the trait. He's kept a smile on his face for most of the time. There have been difficult circumstances. We all have different views. There have been some challenging times in the last 3 years in my presidency, which I also struggle with. But the help of the BSBI staff and our members is great. It bears us up. So these are now a few things you might not know about Jim, right? Who knew about this one? He saw the Sex Pistols play at Dundee University in 1976. But what does it say? He did not like them because they were very noisy and they spoiled the conversation he was having. Well, I mean, doesn't that tell you something about Jim? He'd rather be talking to people and enjoying people directly with something noisy that's going on over there. And he also appears in The Scotsman. I think I do remember this, Jim. You're hitting the headlines when the Loch Harbour Mountain Rescue Team attempting to rescue him. And they report him missing by his friends for several days. Well, he wasn't really missing. He'd just gone off into the hills backpacking, and he told the helicopter to go away. Now, and he was perfectly all right. As we see, he was perfectly all right. I've had a couple of tussles with helicopters, but that's not for me to tell you today. Okay, the early days. This is just before he joined the BSBI, and he went off with a rum group, as you can see, to the island of Rum. And on the ferry out, he said to me, because he was working for SNH just then, I think, he said, I'm thinking of applying for this new post of Scottish Officer. What do you think it's about? And I said, well, we haven't had one before. What do you think? And we sort of had a conversation for half an hour. And he said, I think I'm more interested in it now. So that was something good. And then I gather on the way back on the ferry, you talked to Kevin about the similar subject. And obviously Kevin Walker, who's our scientific leader, must have given Jim encouragement as well. So here we are. Okay, let's go on to some of the spots you've enjoyed. This is Loch Squeezer on a nice day. And on the way to Tiree, well, we had a special event there. If you don't know, remember that. We stopped in the middle of the ocean, and all of a sudden there was sort of boats zooming about, and there was yachts saying, "Help! Help! Help! Rescue us!" and things. And this was a practice for launching the lifeboats and things. And as you see, they chose another rainy day for this to happen, and so we didn't mind. We got into Tiree a bit late that day. And this was a sunny day. But what I'm a bit puzzled about is why you've got your hat on, Jim, because you don't usually have the hat on a sunny day. Okay, the Tiree group. So you will recognise some of these people. I'm hoping to lead a trip to Tiree in 2024. But much of the time, especially in recent years, we've been spent doing this, sitting around with a group of colleagues, Zooming, talking, trying to sort out things. So there you go. Or you'd much rather prefer doing this, looking at things in the field, and I think that applies to all of us. But sometimes you listen to Kevin on the right, and Kevin has an excellent knowledge of plants and their science. In Shetland, well, it was a bit less sunny there. And this is with Rose Scott looking in the square. Can you remember what you were looking for, Jim? No, never mind. I think it was called a susha, or whatever it's called now.
Oh yes.
Yeah.
You're right. It was.
And did we find it? I think we did, didn't we? And we went searching for bog orchid, because Paul Harvey suddenly said, oh, they're going to build X houses over on this bit. I think it looks interesting. Would the BSBI group please go and have a look, see what they can find? And we did find it. As you know, it's a very small one, but it is right in the middle there. And I wrote to the Shetland Times, and they quoted my letter verbatim. I don't think they should have done that. However, the site was partially saved, so we only have a few houses there now. So BSBI groups are worth going on. And we were looking at trees. And as most of you know, there are not many trees in Shetland. This is one of the biggest specimens. This is a hazel in a gorge. And that is an SSSI because of that large specimen. As I said, Jim likes talking to people. So this is at Kew when we celebrated David Pearman, who's done an awful lot for the BSBI. Jim was clearly thinking he was one of the official photographers there. And was, or perhaps he was just wanting to get the first slice of cake. I don't remember, is that right? Yes, okay. Right, so this brings us bang up to date in 2022. I've entitled this, Is This the Rannoch Rush? Because I believe that's what you were all supposed to be searching for there. But since I've heard today, I don't think you've found any new populations. Okay, let you off then. So, well, this is entitled Now What Do We Do? When we're all sort of standing back thinking, well, they've done that then. We get down and we look at it more closely. And I think this also is something that Jim said. Get your hand lens, put it up to your eye, look at these things, look at the structure of the flower. This is how you learn. Well, obviously, what's he going to do now? Well, he's got to keep himself occupied. So this is going to be his retirement project. He may have a few more. Now, can you spot him in here? He is there. And there's also a black object following him. Has anybody seen this black object with Jim? It sometimes comes. So this is this object I met when it was really tiny, Rannoch, and now it's quite a well-grown beastie. And I was hoping he might come, but apparently he's at home lying on the rug. Yeah. So, well, he also is like dabbling in the kitchen. So this is obviously cooking the pondweeds here. Not sure what the menu was like that night. But maybe he's going to enter the photographic competition next year. And maybe he will win something, I don't know. Is he going to go off into the sunset? Well, I personally don't think so. I think we're probably going to see him pop up in all sorts of ways. He's more likely going to head off into the hills in the near future, I suspect, and giving himself a break. And this is what I'd like to do as well, but my knees don't let me do that anymore. So basically, that's just a quick gander through some of your, I hope, happy members. And we want to wish you all the best for whatever you do and wherever you go next. So thank you, Jim.